Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing a commander deck tech on the new commander Esix, the Fractal Bloom. I hate that name, I'm just going to go with the Big E. So the Big E is from the new commander 2021 Simic build. It is actually a very terrifying deck, but we are just looking at this commander on its own, isolated, because this commander broke a few people. It's very powerful. A couple things I noticed when we're trying to go with this deck. The hard part is trying to keep your converted mana cost of the deck down. Like, you find, oh, that's a good card with this, it's only 7 mana. I felt like I wanted to pick all the good, big, fun, dumb cards, put them in this deck and see how it'd go. But your mana curve would be starting in like the 6, 7s, it'd be too high. Also, we're quite heavy in ramp, whether it be actual creatures that fetch out lands or mana dorks, but this is fine because we have a lot of big spells we have to play, plus we can just throw them into the meat grinder, and any protection in this deck is mainly preserved for the commander because the commander is a key part. You need it to do its explosive victories. So, the Fractal Bloom is 6 mana, Simic of course, cool creature type, a Fractal, 4/4 flying, but the big kicker is, the first time you'd create one or more tokens during each of your turns, you may instead choose a creature other than the Big E, and create that many tokens that are copies of that creature. Few things to note. Doesn't have to be your creature you can target for copying. You can pick anyone's creature on the board that is big, dumb, and spicy that you could have fun with. It's the first instance of tokens you create, so you can only do it once a turn and on your turn, whether you have an effect that creates 1 token or 10. From that one instance, that first instance is what you copy of. Alright, let's keep going through it. So, first up, easy wins, free victories here. We'll do Buy Visionary first. If you have 4 more copies of him, you just win the game. This deck has lots of ways to make copies of creatures, of course, being a copy deck, so easy win there. And Time Stream Navigator. You need to send online, so you have to have 10 permanents to get the City's Blessing. Very easy to copy your deck with tons of tokens in Commander especially. Pay 4 mana, put the Time Stream to the bottom of your library, have an extra turn. If you make 5 copies of this or something like that, you're going to win the game if you never let your opponents have a turn. Okay, onto the actual token production. So we'll use Hornet Queen as an example to show how this ability works, and then you just use the exact same example with other cards. So Hornet Queen brings 4 tokens into play. Your commander sees this, them being tokens, you may choose another creature on the board for them to enter as instead. You can choose Hornet Queen, so now you have 4 more copies of Hornet Queen entering the board. Now those 4 copies enter the board, they too bring 4 tokens with them. So now you have 5 Hornet Queens in play with 16 tokens from 7 mana. It is an explosive board presence that is very hard to deal with. Now the same effect can be applied to Avengers Zendikar, the Battlesphere, and Master Waves, but they're all got their little tweaks and differences. Avengers Zendikar is terrifying because it makes tokens based on the number of lands you control. Those tokens in the battlefield, you choose them to enter copies of more Avengers Zendikars. So now you have something like maybe 16 to 30 god knows what planet tokens. But all Avengers Zendikar have landfall whenever a land is battlefield. Put a counter on each planet token you control. You play 1 land, they're not 0/1 planets anymore. You've got like 5-6 planet tokens that can start crushing your opponent dead. God forbid you put fetch lands in your library. Ugh. The Battlesphere, very cool way to deal like indirect burn damage to your opponent. Enters the battlefield, it brings 4 bodies. So again, you can get 16 little tokens and you got 5 Battlespheres. So you're at 21 physical bodies there. 1 Battlesphere can attack an opponent, and you may tap down the other 20 that you've got there to deal 20 indirect damage to your opponent. Like, Christ. And then you've got Master Waves, who creates 1 0 tokens based on your devotion to blue. But he has a lot of effect that gives all your wave elemental thingies +1/+1. The big weakness with him is that if he dies, the wave tokens go with him because he's giving them the toughness higher than 0 to keep them alive. If you have multiple copies of Master Waves, that fixes that weakness built into them. Now you have 5 Lord effects, so you can have maybe, I don't know, 6, 5 water elemental tokens floating around. The Deep Forest Hermit, very similar to the Master of Waves. Enters the battlefield, you get 4 Squirrel tokens. Choose to target himself, so you can have 5 Hermits, and you have 16 Squirrel tokens running around. But those Squirrel tokens are all 6/6s. Like, ugh, that's a lot of damage. Now, Rampaging Baloth, he's not as explosive, but he has a long-term exponential growth. Every time landfall occurs, you may create a 4/4 beast token. That beast token could enter as a copy of the Baloth too. Every time you're doing that, you're creating more copies of the Baloth, and the more copies of Baloth you got, the more tokens you can make then and there, which become probably more Baloths, and it's just a never-ending repeating pattern. Now, the War Pride, this is terrifying. This can kill people outright if they've got a good creature on their side of the board. So, the War Pride is 6 mana. must be blocked by exactly one creature, so no multi-blocking. When it attacks, put X tokens into play tapped and attacking that are copies of the War Pride, where X is the number of creatures your defending player controls. Remove those tokens from the game at end of turn. Now remember, your commander can convert any token that enters the battlefield into any other creature on the battlefield. It doesn't have to be yours as long as it's the first time you've done it this turn and it's your combat. Now, God forbid your opponent's got some big spicy creature like some Eldrazi, It That Betrays or something, and now you attack with the War Pride and you make 5 copies of the It That Betrays that are now tapped and attacking. That is just filthy. Skittering Invasion is just an easy way to put 5 bodies onto the board, which you could make 5 copies of something else, or use them as a little mana bank later on, being Eldrazi spawn. Chasm Skulker, nice cheap mana cost, good in the early game, builds up counters as you just draw cards. When he does die, pops off, you get a ton of tokens which can become a lot of copies of something else. Awakening Zone isn't explosive or exponential, it's just 1 body per turn, but if you need to, worst case, it can become a copy of something else if you need to, plus mana option is good. Scoot Swarm, little Scooty. Landfall, create a bug token. If you got 6 more lands, instead you create a copy of the Scoot Swarm. It never ends, just keep playing lands, more tokens, it just gets out of hand exponential. Good luck to your opponent. Double up. So to make double tokens, Second Harvest, literally doubles the tokens that you have. Easy, nice and cheap. Parallel Evolution, pretty much the same thing, but with flashback. And the new commander, which is in the same deck if you buy it, Adrix and Nev, the twin casters, has that ward, kind of like a little protection bubble on him. But if one or more tokens be created under your control, create that many, or twice that many instead. Just powerful effects in this deck. You totally could put Doubling Season, Parallel Lives, or is it, what is the other one? Primal Vigor, I think it is. Could totally put them in this deck. They're just expensive, so I've left them out. So some good targets to clone instead of the actual tokens if you want to. Agent of Treachery. 7 mana here, he's expensive, which is common in this deck. Enters the battlefield, gain control of target permanent, and if you control 3 or more that aren't actually yours, you get to draw cards. If you get enough copies of this, just steal everything. They have no board left, and that's a win there. Endrace Forerunner is a cheap creator of Behemoth. Enters the battlefield, all your creatures get 2/2, Vigilance and Trample. Multiple copies of this, it has haste, just stack up the buff and probably run your opponent dead then and there. Kratos is better, but he is $50. This is like a few bucks. Cheaper option. And Mana Warrior, just a jellyfish that I like to play because I can dismantle my opponent's creature board without much effort. At 3 mana too, by the way. Risen Reef. Now, I think this works the way I think it works. When Risen Reef or another elemental enters the battlefield under your control, you look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, into play. If it's not, you put it into your hand. If all the tokens are Risen Reef entering at the same time, does it see each other one? I think it does. So you get tons of triggers of looking through your library, just going land, hand, land, hand, land, hand. I think that's how it works. If so, that is terrifying. Plus, nice and cheap, keep him on the board. Need to make token copies of him later on throughout the game, get more card advantage or ramp. It's scary. Just some supporting pieces that help the deck out. Essence Warden does well, life gain from creatures enter battlefield, plenty of creatures entering battlefield of course. Calling Oracle, just a nice little efficient creature, could be land, could be a draw. Oko, thank God he's still legal in Commander, just wait till he gets banned. He creates a token which if you need to can become a copy of something else if you're desperate. He can turn creatures into just to vanilla things, rip all the abilities off them, which is nice to have. Just nice cheap Planeswalker that gives you options. For extra duplication effects, Rite of Replication makes tokens on the board which you can kicker and make a lot of powerful tokens if you need to. The Duplicate, similar effect with Jumpstart, but nice and cheap at 3 mana. Double Major in the Strixhaven set is a very powerful similar effect. You copy a creature spell that you control, so when you cast a creature you make a copy then and there. Or good old Helm of the Host, can put it on your commander for extra protection, because remember, redundancy is a form of protection when it comes to commanders. Or just put on some big dumb creature and just win the race there. In terms of draw, Elvish Visionary and Muldrifter, just creature with draw built on. I love Muldrifter, the best non-fish in Magic, but these are prime candidates to draw, make copy effects so you can draw more. Also run just the Preordained Ponder and Brainstorm for just good old cantripping. For protection, run both my booties as I always do. Heroic Intervention never hurts to have, just indestructible hexproof for a round. Gonna love it. In terms of killing things dead, Wreck Sage and Acidic Slime, enter the battlefield, wreck artifact enchantments or lands, whatnot. Great options again to choose for copying if you need to just wreck their permanents. Perplexing Test is a kind of a partial one-sided board wipe, which works for us. Instant, you're going to choose return all non-tokens creatures to their owner's hand, so the tokens get to stay. So you could have a pretty sizable, strong board presence, and you've just reset everything. I'm not against it, and it's only a few bucks. Cyclonic Rift is good, but it's $40 again, so I don't want to put it in here. For just counter spells removal, just pick what you like. Beast Within and Rapid Hybridization can wreck permanents or creatures, and they give tokens. If you need to, wreck one of your own tokens to create another token so you can get that copy effect if you need to desperately. Nature's Claim, just hating on artifact enchantments. Counterspell, Mana Leak, and Negate, just because generic counterspells are good. But Spell Swindle, if they cast something on your turn, because remember your counter works on your turn, counter or Spell Swindle, get a ton of treasure tokens based on the CMC that you countered, and then they enter the battlefield as another copy of other good juicy targets. Now with Ramp, there's going to be a lot of it, because if shit doesn't go right, we need to be able to cast a commander multiple times, an expensive commander by 6 mana default, or if they don't have a commander out, we have to hard cast some of this stuff, so we've got a lot of Ramp. God of Horizons lets us bank up all that mana, just in case. Birds of Paradise, turn 1 drop, living the dream. Gaia Sage, Incubation Druid, and the Sumbleworld Sage are just really strong mana dorks in this deck. They can be abused for a lot of mana, plus great options to make tokens of. The Crypto Rite makes everything in your deck a mana dork, which is going to get there a lot quicker. Cloud Key, drop it, put it on a creature, make every creature in your deck a lot cheaper. Walking Atlas lets you tap and put lands from your hand onto the battlefield. Good old Kadama's Reach and Cultivate, just duplicates of each other, just getting those lands into the battlefield quick as we can. We run Farhaven Elf, Wood Elf, Steve, and Sad Robot, all just creatures that when they enter the battlefield or die or they do something, they get us lands from the library onto the battlefield to get us ahead. Plus, the amount of token copies of these we could make to get more lands, we could actually start theoretically thinning our deck down. Mid to late game, you could really just get all your lands out, no problem, and you're just drawing value. No more lands, no more top decking lands. When it comes to mana rocks, Arcane Signet, Simic Signet, Soul Ring, just kind of the cheaper ones, nothing over 2 mana here. Thought Vessel can come in handy because you can draw a lot of cards in this library, so you don't want to ever have to start ditching your resources. And just a Talisman, just nice, cheap, reliable rocks we know. Onto the lands, the Garden is the land that can bring tokens to the battlefield. If we need it late game, just that one extra token, it could come in handy. Spawning Bed, similar idea, it's a land that can become 3 tokens, so potential 3 copies is something we need. Temple of False Gods and the Castle Garenbrig are just lands that get you ahead. There are plenty of lands out there that are really greedy, which would do better in a commander like this, but they're getting expensive. I'm trying to keep the cost down. Good old Mirrored Landscape, just get more lands out of our library. Command Beacon to help avoid 1 command attacks if we can, because they're an expensive commander. Mystic Sanctuary just to get probably board wiper removal back from our graveyard. Colored lands, just generic stuff, nothing too expensive. You can put fetches, shocks in here if you want to, but I just try and keep it under 10 bucks for a land. I don't like going too hard in commander. And for the basics, we run 12 and 11 for our 2 colors. Okay, that is the biggie, the Fractal Bloom. It is a terrifying commander. It can be so explosive. You can go from 6-7 mana, boom, 5 Hornet Queens and 16 tokens, deal with it. It can kill people out real quick. Good thing about this commander too, there's just longevity to it. Any time we have powerful token producers being released, spoiled, whatever, people will look back at this commander and go, could be put in there. Always future upgrades with this commander, can be very competitive, lots of upgrade path. Like I said, Doubling Season, Primal Vigor, Parallel Lives, Jeweled Lotus would be really good in this deck. Getting your commander out turn 2, turn 3 would be terrifying, because you need just more tokens too early. It's a very competitive deck, very fast, a bit sweaty. I like it. Alright guys, let me know your thoughts. What tokens would you like to put in here for cool effects, and what are your juicy targets you want to copy? Let me know your thoughts and have a good one. Catch you later. By the way, I'm moving soon, so that's why my background, my cabinets are going to look a bit messy and empty. Soon, I'll be in a new home, thank God. Thanks for watching the video, guys. If you enjoyed it or you found this commander really spicy, give the video a like, helps out the channel a lot. And please consider subbing, about 10% of our viewers are subbed. To my patrons, I cannot thank you guys enough for your direct support, it does mean the world to me. I hope you're all doing safe out in the world. Any commander from Commander 21 that really takes your fancy? Fractal Bloom was it for me. As soon as I saw that effect, I was like, Avengers Zendika. I think everyone thought the same way. Alright guys, thank you.